This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Hey all you heroes and champions, crows, pirates, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Austin.
And we are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe. From the Maker to Lyrium to Aravels, we will cover it all. There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about all things Dragon Age and its lore. I am one of your hosts, Austin or Teacup, and I'm here with my other host.
Yeah, I'm Shelby or Shecup.
And so we are continuing in our season 3 with our spirits, demons, and magic. Oh my! So what are we talking about this week? We talked about a lot of demons last week.
Well, we're talking about a lot of demons this week too. Just some different ones from last time.
More demons?
More demons. There are more. So we're talking about rage, pride, and envy. And we'll talk a little bit about vengeance too at the end.
And for a very, very fluffy side character.
We'll get there.
Well, let's get started. We don't have any fun facts because demons are not fun.
Well, I mean, it's not that they're not fun. It's just that, yeah.
Demons are not fun. They get no fun facts. Just
okay. So rage demons. We'll start there. Rage demons are the most common type of demons that we encounter. They are also the weakest type of demon. And that's because the emotion that drives them, rage or anger, is a much more simple emotion, and it's less devious of an emotion, which makes them less evil even. So like there's no manipulation involved in rage or anger the way there is in the desire demon. And so that's kind of why they're at the bottom rung on the totem pole. And additionally, they also like never resort to deceit or lying or manipulation because they instead want to kind of attack their target with as much force as possible until that target dies. So they are very much an upfront, this is what you get kind of demon. They are not one to hide or use a disguise or anything like that.
I have one comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think rage demons would be the weakest until a rage demon manifests it from Cassandra Pentagast's rage at everything.
That's fair. That's very fair. So I did bring a quote from the Codex, and this is from the Codex titled Rage Demon. Even powerful rage demons are less intelligent than most other varieties. Their tactics are simple. Attack an enemy on sight with as much force as possible until it perishes. Some rage demons carry over their heat-based abilities into possessed hosts. But otherwise, their true form is mostly seen outside of the Fade when it is specifically summoned by a mage to do his bidding. So that's the end of the quote. And what I'm picturing is the lava fire-esque creature coming up from the ground. That's what I'm picturing when it talks about its true nature.
Right. It's so interesting that they're the most common types of demon, but I feel like the most common demon we actually do see in the game is the Shade or the Sloth demon.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think the most common demon we see in the game is the Desire demon.
True, but I was thinking more as like everyday enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Like we see Shades all the time as enemies.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what the Codex said.
It's just interesting to me.
Well, do you have any other thoughts about rage demons?
Other than like, I think that they might be the most common because they're the easiest to manifest.
Yeah, like who hasn't felt rage at some point in their life?
Right. I mean, we're gamers. We literally have rage quit.
Rage quit.
As a part of our vocabulary. So like, yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's move on to pride, which is a very fearsome variety of demon. So, pride demons are incredibly powerful, and they're corrupted forms of wisdom and faith spirits. And they are among the most powerful demons encountered in Thedas, as far as we know so far. And they also tend to be some of the more insidious types of demons. So they are so powerful that when they possess a corpse, like it doesn't produce like a shambling warrior the way that it normally would. Instead, when a pride demon possesses a corpse, it produces a revenant or an arcane horror, depending on whether or not it's a mage, who's like super extra powerful.
So I have pride demons to thank for all the revenants I have to fight in Origins.
Yep. Well, anyway, I have another Codex quote.
Let's do it.
So this comes from the Beyond the Veil Spirits and Demons Codex. And this one's a little bit long, so just bear with me and then you can give me your thoughts. Quote, "The most powerful demons yet encountered are the pride demons, perhaps because they, among all their kind, most resemble men, as clever and manipulative as the desire demon, with a penchant for cruel irony that is almost human. While the demons of desire largely engage in the bribery of mortals, pride will use mortals' own best nature against them. Clever men outwit themselves, strong men crush themselves, humble men forget themselves, jealous men fear themselves. They turn corruption and ruin into an art." End quote.
That's really interesting, especially kind of like what we were talking about either last episode or 2 episodes ago, with like each of the forbidden ones like personifying a type of demon. Like Imshale is obviously desire. There's a lot of things. We're talking about the formless one and his connections to soulless, and that soulless means pride.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe when we were talking either when one of those episodes, there was the Codex entry that said, like, if a very powerful pride demon entered the world, it would wreak havoc on the world.
Yes. Yeah. That was last episode.
Yeah.
I think that I thought of that while I was reading it, but I also, there's 4 forbidden ones, right? So at the end of this codex, it says clever men, strong men, humble men, and jealous men. That's 4 different kinds of men. Do you think that's a coincidence? Like, how far are we taking it?
Right, exactly. And we can talk about all of those, like, so clever men, pride demons, strong men, rage demons, humble men, sloth demons, jealous men, envy demons.
Or desire demons.
Or desire.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and what if each of those corresponds to one of the forbidden ones,
Right. It's very, very interesting. And especially since Gax King will take the form of an arcane horror and a revenant, which links him to pride demons a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He also takes the form of a man.
Correct. And I know all demons have the power to shapeshift into whatever they want. But Imshale, I believe he becomes depending on where you are in the story when you encounter him, he can become a fear demon. He can become a rage demon. I think he becomes a pride demon.
Are you talking about in the fight?
Yeah.
He does all. He does a lot.
Right. And it also depends on how long your fight lasts, for how many you see. Right?
I think so.
Yeah. So, again, a lot of interesting things that may just be game mechanics of making a difficult fight, but might have lore implications as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Another thing that I thought that was really interesting about this codex entry is in the first sentence, it says, "the most powerful demons yet encountered," which implies that there could be a type of demon that we haven't yet encountered that's more powerful than even a pride demon.
In this codex entry, do we get a date of when this comes from?
Interestingly, we don't have a date for it. We know that it comes from the Codex is titled Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons, but in the Codex text, it's like that is an excerpt from the book titled Beyond the Veil, Spirits and Demons by Enchanter Midromal. But the interesting thing about it is that we don't have a date, but the same codex appears in both Origins and 2.
Interesting. And like, from what we know, at least, like, the Forbidden Ones are theorized to have taught blood magic to man, whether it's the Deventor Magisters or someone else. And then they're not really seen again until the Dragon Age.
That we know of.
That
I mean,
we
they
know
could
of.
be that we just don't know.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's get back to Pride Demons. So that's that codex entry. So I told you about how a pride demon, when it possesses a person or a corpse, can turn into an arcane horror or a revenant, right? Well, also, if you have a revenant or an arcane horror, that can also be possessed by a pride demon.
Like, possessed again?
Yep, they're that powerful.
So, like, a revenant can turn into, like, the physical form of a pride demon.
Yeah.
I'm computing what, like, have we seen that?
No, we haven't seen it.
Oh, so it's...
He told me this is possible.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So we know that wisdom is at least one spirit that can be twisted into a pride demon. We actually see this exact thing happening in Solas's side quest titled All New Fated for Her. And in the quest, we see a spirit of wisdom, who is Solas's friend, being summoned by a group of frankly immature mages, and they attempt to bind the spirit, and it turns into a pride demon. In addition to that, David Gator has also said that Faith is another spirit that can become a pride demon when that spirit of faith is corrupted.
And you know, like, I would say that almost any emotion can be manipulated into becoming pride. Because, like, for example, like, yeah, we know justice switches to vengeance, and I know we're going to talk about that later. But, like, so you could be so caught up in your concept of justice that you're almost prideful about it and that you know best.
That's a good point.
Or even love, like a spirit of love. You could be so engrossed in how loving you are that it turns to pride and arrogance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of what the Codex entry is kind of getting at, in that, like, pride is so complex because so many things can feed into it and create it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my last little point about pride demons are just that we've met a lot of them, and a lot of them have names. So we've met Worm, Hybris, Audacity, and many other unnamed ones. But I lift those three up because I think that they have really interesting names.
Yeah.
Hybris, to me, sounds like hubris.
Yeah.
And Audacity, like, we all know what audacity means.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you want to take our break?
Yes, I almost forgot about the break. So thank you.
All right, let's go to the break.
Enchantment? Enchantment!
You need me.
Ugh.
I am yours as always.
So, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things Dragon Age that don't have to do with the lore, but have to do with this podcast. And so I wanted to start a little differently this time before we get into, like, our patrons, because for the first time in a long time, we have a player character to share. We have a hawk to share. Are you excited?
I am. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So this comes from Courier07. They shared their hawk in the Discord. There is a female rogue, Elizabeth Hawk, and they are having so much fun making the purple choice options in Dragon Age 2, meeting some of the characters from Dragon Age Origins and new characters I've heard so much about. And this is their canon hawk, who is romancing planning on romancing Isabella on this playthrough, and they do plan on eventually romancing all possible partners on later playthroughs. And then sadly, after Act 2, Bethany got sent to the Circle, and they had to swap her for Anders, but they are really enjoying swapping between all the companions. Thank you for sharing your hawk.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and you too can share your hero hawks or heralds with us in the Discord or Twitter or wherever, and we will share them on a future episode of the show. And so now I'll get in. This is a time where I want to thank all of our patrons and remind you that we do have a Patreon that you can find in the episode description. You can go there and subscribe to various tiers, from our lowest one, which will get you ad-free episodes, all the way up to coming on to the show with us once a month and hanging out with us and talking about Dragon Age things, which is awesome. And so I want to say a special thank you to all our patrons who have subscribed and who support us. We greatly appreciate it. And now I'm going to read the names of our first patrons who get their name read out on every episode of the show. And so that is Lisa M, Genesis, Derek B, and Zuba. And so thank you so much for your support. Another way to support us is by leaving a review or rating on Spotify and Apple. If you leave us a review on Apple that's 5-star and with some words, we will read that out on a future episode of the show. I do not believe we have any reviews to read today. And so with no reviews, I think that's all I have. No, that is not all I have, because I also want to remind you to come and join our Discord server, the Cups Podcasting and More. You can come and hang out with us there and join there, talk about Dragon Age, talk about our other podcasts, the Assassin's Creed Lorecast, or talk to Star Wars with us with the Holocron Histories podcast. It is the place to learn about those podcasts and hang out. You can find that in the episode description. If you love gaming podcasts, I would also encourage you to join the Robots Radio Discord, which you can find in the episode description. We're on there as well, and you can find some amazing podcasts to listen to and hang out with there on that server. If there's a video game you love, odds are there is a podcast about it on that server. And if not, I bet you could make one yourself or convince someone to make one. So yeah, I think that's all I got. You got anything, Shelby?
Let's get back to it.
All right, let's get back to the demons.
Well, that was Orlesian.
Dareth Shira.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
Okay, so the next type is an interesting type, and one that we haven't seen much of. So this is the Envy Demon. And the Envy Demon is a very rare occurrence, and I believe the first time we ever see one is in Inquisition. And you meet the Envy Demon if you complete the quest Champions of the Just, which requires you to side with the Templars. So I feel like most people side with the mages, so maybe this is a little bit unfamiliar to you. But at the end of the day, an Envy Demon's basic want is to become immortal. This is a little bit different from Desire Demons. Like, Desire Demons typically want to become or attain what we desire, whereas Envy Demons want to become us.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like, I really like the Champion of the Just quest line. I think, even though I think siding with the mages is maybe a better choice in Dragon Age Inquisition, I enjoy playing the Champions of the Just quest a lot more than the in Hushed Whispers.
Me too. I agree. I think that Champions of the Just is a stronger quest, but to me, like, lore wise, I don't know why you would ever side with the Templars. Especially after everything that happened in Val Royeaux, when you have Templars come up there and insult you and punch a revered mother and all this, when like there are mages potentially being enslaved. Like, I don't know why you would ever side with the Templars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I totally do. But my point with like this is that a way like you can make the Envy Demon so angry if when in the vision and it's showing you all the things it's going to do at posing as you, and you're basically like, oh, I would never say that, I would never do any of that, no one would believe you were me, like, and the envy demon gets so angry.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But I do agree with you. I do think that Champions of the Just is like the stronger quest line. But anyways, so again, I brought a quote from the Codex because there are codexes on most of the demon types. So this is from the Envy Demon Codex. Quote, envy demons are equal parts arrogance and cowardice. They isolate their victims to study them at length, seeking to become them. Once the demon is satisfied, it knows its chosen subject, it takes on their form, leaving the poor soul to rot. Envy is never satisfied, however. The demon's bottomless cravings to be more powerful, more skilled, more inspired, cause it to seek fresh prey, leaving a trail of stolen identities behind. And this codex, the quote of the codex comes from a scroll found on the body of scholar Esmar Treviento by the Templars who hunted him down. End quote.
I think a good way to like illustrate like the biggest difference between envy demons and desire demons in the game is to compare Champions of the Just to Sebastian's quest in Act 2 of DA2, which is where you go to the noble house, the Harriman estate, and like because of like the jealousy and envy that Lady Harriman felt towards Sebastian's family, a desire demon comes and takes hold of her. But like when you look at the difference, that desire demon is never trying to pose as the Harrimans. It's only trying to create this chaos and take hold of what this person desires. Whereas the Champions of the Just, that envy demon, is trying to become the Inquisitor.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. Definitely. So another thing that I find really interesting about envy demons are their connection to chantry history. And at first it might seem like, what are you talking about? But the chantry insists and believes that it was envy that first drew and continues to draw spirits into the mortal world and outside of the Fade. Envy is what these spirits and then demons felt when the Maker created mortals. And when the Maker cast the first children, the spirits, aside. Envy, then, is the first new thing that the spirits ever created. What do you think about that?
That's really interesting because like the whole chantry's point is that the reason that the Maker turns from the spirits is because they can't create. And so in response to that, they create an extremely powerful demon.
Well, not just an extremely powerful demon, but a totally new emotion at that point. I think I agree. It is very interesting. And I think that it definitely makes sense in that kind of way of like, okay, well, you didn't do what I wanted you to, so I'm gonna stop this relationship that I have with you and move on to somebody else. And it's at that point entirely that person always does what you want them to do, right? Like that's the situation that they're in.
Yeah, it's interesting because like according to chantry lore, you could argue that envy draws spirits out of the Fade and into the world, whereas you could argue that it's pride that draws man or humans into the Fade, both creating terrible things in the world.
It's a very fascinating dichotomy for sure. But to continue talking about envy demons, so another really interesting thing about envy demons for me is that thus far, as far as we know, envy demons are the only demons who really study their prey. And that's because they will then eventually take on their form, right? And they want to be as indistinguishable from that person as possible. And so they study them to make sure that they can copy them in every single way. And a lot of demons, while you can't physically tell a difference between the person when they're being possessed, when they speak or in their mannerisms, it's often pretty easy to tell, okay, you're being possessed. Like there's something that's not right here. Well, with an envy demon, that would not be the case because they study their prey so much and for so long.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
And then the last thing that I have to say about envy demons is that in Dragon Age Inquisition, in Champions of the Just quest, we see an envy demon possesses Lord Seeker Lucius Corrin and later attempts to possess the Inquisitor.
Is possess the right word?
Why would it not be the right word?
Well, it shouldn't Lord Seeker Lucius be immune to possession?
I don't know. I guess this is a plot hole in the lore.
Well, because it's interesting to me, like, if this is truly how an envy demon possesses, that's different because they possess differently than the other demons too. Because the real Lord Seeker Lucius is walking around at the same time that the envy demon is impersonating him.
No, isn't he dead?
No, because you encounter him at Kaer Oswin.
Yeah, he's possessed.
No, because you still have that encounter if you do Champions of the Just.
You can't go to Kaer Oswin with Cassandra's quest before Champions of the Just.
Exactly, but you kill the envy demon there in Champions of the Just. That's the real Lord Seeker Lucius in Kaer Oswin.
I don't know how this all works out.
Because I think Daniel, I believe that's his name, the Seeker that you talked to on the stairwell.
Yes.
He says that the Lord Seeker allowed himself to be impersonated.
Okay, well then maybe he just like let the envy demon use his form.
Right. So maybe that would have been different than what the envy demon was trying to do to the Inquisitor.
Right. So maybe it's not a true possession then.
Right. If it is a possession, then that I have questions for BioWare and their lore.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts about the envy demon?
No, just other that I like that BioWare is kind of expanding demons a lot in that them getting like envy is so related to pride, but it's a different demon. And I would argue that like envy and pride, while connected, are different emotions, and like envy and desire.
I agree very much. Okay, so the last demon I want to touch on is vengeance, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we will talk about Anders and Justice in another episode dedicated to Anders. But I did want to mention vengeance and bring it up. There's not a Codex entry for vengeance. There's not a DA wiki page for a vengeance demon, but we know Justice, who's possessing Anders, turns into vengeance throughout Dragon Age 2. That's kind of the arc of the game. So I wanted to see, I didn't take any notes on this either, but I just wanted us to talk about vengeance, what we thought about vengeance, what we think would make a vengeance demon unique. Where you think vengeance demons rank in that listing.
I think that a vengeance demon, I think it would rank somewhere like between hunger and desire. Just because vengeance can be very complicated. And like, I know you can feel vengeful, but like, is vengeance a true emotion?
Oh, I think so. And I disagree with you. I don't think vengeance and revenge and vengefulness are very complicated at all.
I guess that's
I
true.
think they're pretty simple emotions. I think that the want for justice in the world is a complicated emotion or concept, but I think the opposite of that, so revenge or vengeance, is very simple. And so for me, I would suggest that a vengeance demon could rank just above rage.
Right, because I guess that would make sense because like vengeance is a much more specific type of rage. Um and like you can have rage, but to have rage enough that you want to punish a group of people or another person is an entirely different emotion.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think it's interesting. Vengeance is interesting as a demon because for most of the other demons, they are wanting something. They are seeking more of something. Whereas vengeance comes about as a denial of something. It's a denial of justice.
Right. Which like I think of when you do Anders' recruitment quest and it turns out that his mage friend has been made tranquil and vengeance takes over, and what vengeance says is you will never harm another mage again, and it's like putting an end to something as like creating more of something, as you said.
So I guess my question to you about vengeance is, when do you think the spirit of justice changes into a demon of vengeance? Like, what's the moment? What's the last straw as our resident DA2 expert?
I think the last straw is probably in Act 2, I believe, with Cullen's quest in Act 2. I think is what happens, where you run into the mages that Cullen basically wants to execute. And Anders basically takes over and can cause a fight. I think that's Cullen's quest. I can't remember the name. It's been a hot minute since I've actually played through DA2. So I think that would be the final straw, but I think the process starts the moment that Justice and Anders are bonded. Mainly because I really think that Anders underestimated the trauma that he has experienced and how much that would affect the bonding between them.
Yes, I think that's true. I also think the spirit of justice underestimated what it would be like to possess a living being, because before he possesses a corpse of Kristoff. So I think the spirit underestimates what Anders is feeling in those moments. But I agree with you that it starts the moment they join together. But I think the final straw is that moment in Act 1 that you mentioned with Anders' friend that's made tranquil for no reason, really. I think that is the last straw, and the reason why is because of the quote you just said, like, you'll never harm another mage. Like, that is a breaking point.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like all throughout the entirety of that, like the only time we ever see like anyone in control of Justice or Anders is if you happen to take Anders into the Fade in Fainriel's quest.
Mm-hmm.
And Justice basically takes over and is in full control.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts about vengeance?
No, not that I don't want to save for the Anders episode.
Okay, well, stay tuned. So let's move into the side character.
Okay.
So today's side character is a silly one. And the reason why I picked this one is because the last two were like super serious conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, tinfoil rustling in the background, as somebody said in our server the other day. So I kind of chose a silly one to follow up the serious ones. And today's character is Lord Woolsey. And do you remember who Lord Woolsey is?
How could I forget?
The orange ram.
Right. I just have to say that I made a certain choice in that quest solely because I did Where the Druffalo roam before I did that quest, like right before. And So I made certain choices because I said, I am not hauling this thing all the way across the hinterlands to Red Cliff.
So you attacked it.
I did.
And
I was shocked.
I always kill it.
Yeah, this little farmer doesn't. Well, let's get into it before we start talking
Okay.
about Lord Wolves.
So Lord Woolsey is a unique ram that you can encounter in the hinterlands in Inquisition. There's a man in Redcliffe, one-eyed Jimmy, who is like a farmer, village guy, who basically will stop you as the Herald of Andraste and is very concerned about his family's special ram that they have kept as a pet all these years. He claims that Lord Woolsey has brought great luck to the family as the animals, quote unquote, advice helped them win a bunch of money. One-eyed Jimmy then tells you that the ram was spooked, quote unquote, spooked by the breach and ran out of the village into the hinterlands, most likely to their family's summer cabin. Though One-eyed Jimmy is unable to go after the ram at the time. He then demands the Herald of Andraste help with finding his family's ram. And the ram is orange. That's what sets it apart from the others. So then you can go to the area around the lake near where you find Blackwall, and you'll find this little orange ram wandering around. You can do one of two things. You can tell the ram to go back to One-eyed Jimmy, and it will. It will find its way back to Red Cliff on its own, and Jimmy will give you some kind of reward when you meet again. Jimmy will also say, when you meet with him after returning the ram, that the ram said the herald convinced him to return, which tells you that One-eyed Jimmy can communicate with Lord Woolsey even when Lord Woolsey is in his animal form. So there's no way that One-eyed Jimmy doesn't know this thing is a demon.
I mean, if he's just believing that it brought, I mean, let's be real. People will believe all kinds of superstitious crap as long as it's being good to them.
That's fair, but it's still stupid.
Well, his name is One-eyed Jimmy, so.
Yeah, that's fair. So then the second way that you can deal with Lord Woolsey is you can be like Austin and you can just kill him. Or if you attempt to capture Lord Woolsey, he just turns into a rage demon that you have to kill no matter what.
What a weird quest.
It is. It really is such a silly little quest, but I think it does highlight the desire of demons, right? To become something that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And even in this stupid little silly side quest that is funny and ridiculous, like a demon is becoming something that it's not. It's becoming an animal. It's becoming a pet of a family. And this rage demon was content enough to just become a ram for who knows how long, just to experience part of Thedas. To me, this very much illustrates the base desire of demons is to be something that they're not, to live a different life and to go where the grass is always greener.
Yeah, that's totally interesting, which is like, it's such a subtle way of like explaining like an evil force of like, oh, they want to be us so much that they'll do anything to make it happen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Also, I just want to talk about like the utter like audacity and like whatever to ask someone as like high profile as the Herald of Andraste to go find your ram.
I know, right? It's crazy.
I'm trying to think of a real world equivalent. And all I can think of is like asking the president to go find your dog.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Though I'll tell you, if a politician came with me and helped me find my dog, I'd probably vote for them forever.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. But it's just, what a subtle way. Like, it's so BioWare too. Like, oh, here's this fun little like fetch and retrieve quest. Oh, it's actually a demon.
Mm-hmm.
You said you always attack it.
Yeah.
You don't want to let this farmer have a demon.
No, absolutely not. What potential evil am I releasing into the world by letting a demon go back to this family?
Right, but this demon, by One-Eyed Jimmy's account, like, this demon has probably been in its family for generations. How many
So,
demons do you know who have not caused any problems?
how do you know he hasn't caused problems?
I guess that's true. But, like, odds are, if it's been in for generations, it means that this ram was probably in Redcliffe when the hero of Ferelden was there. Why that demon didn't, like... I feel like if the demon saw a bunch of corpses, at least the demon would become territorial and be like, yo, what are you doing in my territory?
Right.
But it didn't. Like, so I'm just very confused at its motivations other than like, yeah, I'm content to be a ram. I'm a rage ram.
Right. It doesn't make much sense to me either.
Right. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. As always, you can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, email them to us at dalorecast@gmail.com. The Dragon Age Lorecast is a part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club. You can join the Robots Radio Network Discord by clicking the link in our episode description. If you enjoyed our show, we'd love it if you'd subscribe and give us a review. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Ariel.
And we're the hosts of the Legend of Zelda Lorecast, a podcast about all things Legend of Zelda, from Errol to Zora,
and all the fun things in between.
If you're ready to dive deep and learn more about the Legend of Zelda lore and everything surrounding it, come join us on Legend of Zelda Lorecast. You can find us on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
We hope to see you soon.